take projection.
It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And we are going to get into it this week. We've got two pay-per-views, or PLEs, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, going on this weekend. One from WWE, that'll be Saturday around noon Central, and then AEW Double or Nothing Sunday night, probably until about 3 in the morning, if I had to guess. If history has shown us anything. I don't know, though. The card isn't super long.
The card's not super long, no. And also, like, didn't WWE do this last year where they programmed something on Memorial Day weekend, same as AEW?
I think so.
Was it NXT? It was something.
Yeah, and this weekend there's NXT thing on Sunday night.
Yeah, because isn't this where we got the iconic "I'm not gonna take that fucking shit anymore" gift from Tony Khan?
Forgot about that.
Yeah. I think this is it. So maybe this is a thing going forward. I don't know. Memorial Day weekend, a huge wrestling weekend for us.
Yeah. Well, the thing I saw going around today was that they've said they won't schedule things against each other again, so who knows?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that'll hold.
I'm not going to take this fucking shit.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it. You've got the card for Night of Champions pulled up over there.
Yeah, so I guess the big thing from one of the big matches from Night of Champions, Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles, World Heavyweight Championship final. We've talked about on this podcast how we both think it has to be Seth Rollins. He got a lot of play Monday night. I think he had 3 separate video packages, something like that. They went back to him.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And you know he gave his feelings on Roman Reigns and this and that. I'm expecting this to be a good match. Like I said, I don't see any scenario where AJ Styles comes out the victor in this one.
Yeah, I mean, at first I thought, well, maybe they would give him one last ride, but then you pointed out that, you know, they want to have this belt on Seth when he starts doing press for the Captain America movie next year, so.
Yeah, and also AJ's on SmackDown.
Yeah, well, true.
Which is where Roman is at. So, like, I don't know, that's kind of weird, too. I think not so weird, I guess, if the telltale signs are that Seth Rollins is going to win, it really doesn't matter who he goes up against, right?
Yeah.
But after with Triple H's whole announcement, he was just like, Roman's going to get drafted. Wherever he gets drafted, the other show will have this title. I just feel like it should have been 2 people from Monday Night Raw. But,
yeah,
you know, I predicted Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio. I thought that might be something like that.
Yeah, that could have been fun.
But I'm sure this will be fun, too. The crowd will be into it. But yeah, I think Seth comes away the winner in this one.
Yeah. And that'll be good, you know, because we had an episode just couple months ago called "Let's Put Some Respect on Seth Rollins' Name."
Yeah.
So you know, I think we're just fucking we're on to some
shit. Are they
shit.
Listening to us?
We're on to some shit.
If you're listening to us, someone from WWE or AEW, please just let us know. Cut us a little bit of a check or some T-shirts. They're coming here to Huntsville. Can we get some tickets? Just something, a little kickback. But yeah, too, they're also playing up the whole thing, like you even heard it some in Seth's promo Monday night, just about the sort of Roman Reigns as a champion but nobody respects him type of thing going on, which is something that we've talked about they should have been doing for a while at this point. So that's cool that keeps bringing it up. After watching, and this kind of leads into the next match, Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. After watching Monday Night Raw, I don't know why, but the ending with Cody and Triple H in the locker room, right? I just had a sneaking suspicion. I was like, is Triple H going to be in the corner of Cody Rhodes next year in Philadelphia at WrestleMania as he takes on Roman Reigns? Like, is Triple H going to insert himself up against Roman Reigns at some point here in the next 12 months? I don't know why I felt that. You know, they obviously have a history. They had a WrestleMania match together. I was like, I don't know. It's like it's like in the horror movie where they're just like, you know, the floorboards are creaking and the one character's like, oh, it's nothing. It's just old house. And then the other character's like, no, there's a ghost. It's a demon. It's something, you know.
Some shit's about to go down.
Yeah. I just had that. But yeah, Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes, that's the other big marquee match for Night of Champions. we've talked about, and I think this is a squash match.
Yeah.
I think that's why you give Cody the injury, whether he's legitimately injured or it's just, it's a work for the story. It gives him an excuse.
So the thing I read was that, they're playing up the injury angle so that he's going to take a little time off. I'm like, the motherfucker just had 9 months off. What's happening here?
I don't know, man. I mean, it works for the story. Like, it helps him, I think, if Lesnar is able to just completely annihilate him Saturday.
Which, looks that way.
And, take time off, what does that even mean? Is that 3 weeks? Is that a month? Like,
yeah.
You have other things that can hold over on Monday Night Raw because you're going to have Seth Rollins as the champion, and you're going to have that story going on. And so you write in an excuse narratively for Cody to be off television so that he can return and come back to triumphant hero.
Yeah, I guess. It just seems weird timing to be off again.
Hey, Roman Reigns, it's the NBA. It's load management at this point. Roman Reigns has perfected it. Like, I'm going to show up 2 weeks every 3 months and be on television. And I'll do a little run, and then I'll go back. SummerSlam comes around, you give me a call. I'll show back up. That kind of thing. If the Saudi Crown Prince wants me to show up, I'll be in a tag team match.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we touched on this a little bit last week, but, the Saudi shows are usually just kind of fucking boring for the most part. But the lineup this year, and, we're going to keep running it down, but the lineup in the card for this year is pretty slick so far, I think.
It's got a lot of star power.
Yeah.
And outside of Trish Stratus, no legends.
Yeah.
For the first time in probably a while.
I don't have to beat on Goldberg's door.
Yeah, yeah. I did like, too, the opening of Monday Night Raw. Like, I think a lot of these, it's not just wrestling, but shows in general, at some point in the creation process and in the writing process, I think some people are just like, hey, can we get, like, a couple of GIFs out of this or, like, a meme? And so Cody just sort of walking and then just getting blindsided by Brock Lesnar at the very beginning, backstage flying through the table. Also, WWE, very unsafe work environment, just in general. And Brock Lesnar beat that man's ass.
Ain't with nobody around. Same shit happened.
Trying.
Same shit happened last night in AEW with Rock Hard and Switchblade.
Yeah,
beating the fuck out of him.
Just historically,
Paquette just walks off. They're beating the fuck out of him over on the side.
Yeah, just could you imagine, like, at your workplace, if you just went to go get coffee and all of a sudden come around the corner, two dudes were just throwing haymakers and nobody was trying to stop it, nobody was yelling, people just watching. It would be wild. And it's happened now in pro wrestling. One thing we need to do one podcast that just, like, kayfabe explains why things happen in pro wrestling, and we need to come up with an explanation for that.
Yeah.
Like, why are guys just able to beat the shit out of each other backstage without any repercussions, without no police getting involved, no lawsuit?
Yeah.
That's wild. But
if we were to get real, we can do that at another time.
Yeah.
I got some theories.
Yeah. Very memeable moment, though, with that.
Yeah. So what's next on there?
And then up next, we got the Undisputed Tag Team Championship, Sami Zayn, KO versus Roman Reigns and Solo. We talked about, we think Sami and KO will retain here. Obviously, based off what happened last Friday on SmackDown and Monday Night Raw, the Usos are going to be involved in this. More than likely, they end up costing Roman and Solo this match.
Yeah, because he's already pissed off at him.
Yeah.
So
it was cool to see Sami and Roman back in the ring facing off with each other again. Again, great chemistry with those guys.
Did you see I think it was fan video of them all leaving the other night, and it was the Bloodline going backstage.
I didn't see that.
And Jimmy was at the back of the line, right? And this was after, like, they just had the thing with Roman, whatever, blah blah blah, and he was, like, almost to the little entranceway out, whatever you want to call it, going backstage, and he just kind of, like, bowed up. It's like, it was one of those, like, little moments, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Because we all think, okay, well, Jay's going to be the one that's going to turn on Roman, right? But that was a neat little a neat little moment, I thought. Nobody was clearly looking. Nobody, because he was in the back of the line. None of them clearly saw it, but it was like, what?
It'll be cool to see the WWE Network special 15 years from now, where all these guys are just around a table talking about this story and giving little behind the scenes tidbits, because it's just been fantastic. We had a lot of trepidation coming out of WrestleMania about just where this story would go, and it's continued, and it's still been entertaining, and obviously the most satisfying part of it is still to come, like we talked about last week, whether that happens and is expedited at Night of Champions Saturday, whether that happens at SummerSlam. Whenever they get there, it will be satisfying when they get there, and they've kept the momentum up somewhat. It's hard to say it was as hot of an angle as it was, for Royal Rumble or any of that stuff, because you had Sami Zayn there. I mean, that's a once in a generation type of moment. But it's still been good.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it quite a bit. And then next up, we got Gunther versus Mustafa. Or Mustafa. What's his Ali?
I always thought it was Mustafa, but they say Mustafa.
Mustafa.
I'm real excited about this one. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. I also love Brock Lesnar Monday night just walking through his interview and turning back to the camera. What'd he say? Get a life, kid? Something like that. Anyway, that was a little another tidbit. No, this, like I've talked about before, Gunther just might be the best wrestler in the world. I expect this to just be the best match of the night. Eastern European dudes are having a moment right now. I know you're not a big NBA fan, but between Nikola Jokic and Gunther, like Eastern European, kind of not that athletic, kind of flabby, burly white dudes are just dominating the moment right now between WWE and the NBA. So Nikola Jokic making the NBA Finals.
Never heard that name until just now.
Well, you will. Dude's going to be a superstar here in probably the next 6 weeks as he gets introduced to a massive national audience with the NBA Finals. But yeah, I had that thought. I was like, Gunther and Nikola Jokic, a lot in common, having a moment. So if you're another Eastern European kind of gangly, not really super athletic white dude, I don't know, maybe you got some luck coming
it's
your way.
It's your time
to
shine.
Yeah. It's your time. And then next up, we got Rhea Ripley versus Natalya, SmackDown Women's Championship. I mean,
yeah,
it's not even a question at this point. Yeah. Rhea Ripley, yeah.
Story wise, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a good match, but that's probably the one I'm least interested in. Also,
it seems like if since they're in Saudi Arabia, like Rhea Ripley is probably the one woman who has to change her gear the most, just because her normal gear exposes so much skin.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
So basically, got to put her in like a cat suit. Yeah. Whereas, like, she's probably the only woman that has to have like a wholesale alteration to her look.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that at all.
Because
Becky wears all kinds of different shit, so that shouldn't be hard.
Yeah. Just, Rhea's got her ass hanging out for most of the match, so he can't do that. Bianca Belair versus Asuka next. I actually think this might be an upset. I think we might get the Asuka win at this point.
You think so?
I think so. Probably should have happened at WrestleMania. Or was it Backlash? Backlash. Probably should have happened at Backlash. The rumors are that Bianca and the Street Profits are about to turn heel. So, I don't know. Maybe, how much is this? It wasn't Backlash, it was at WrestleMania, because Backlash was the Io Sky.
Yeah.
Where the Puerto Rican crowd was in favor of Io.
Yeah.
So how much is this a reaction to that and trying to get out ahead of it before the crowd turns on Bianca? Was this always in the cards to begin with? I mean, I guess that's a question coming out of it. I don't want to
see either her or the Street Profits turn heel.
Well, the thing about, if you're going to, calling yourself the EST is a sort of an arrogant, heelish thing to do, right? I didn't watch her in NXT.
Sure.
But apparently she was a heel for the majority of her run in NXT. I just think that maybe you want to, it's like the Bill Belichick thing in football. You want to trade the guy right before it goes on the downturn the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the same sort of thing with Bianca. They want to get out in front and turn her heel before the crowd just turns against her completely. Now, like we mentioned for Backlash, that could have just been a one-off.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're sitting there and you're in management and you're thinking about doing this anyway, you listen to that Puerto Rican crowd cheer for Io and you go, okay, well, maybe we need to speed up this process a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and then we get Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. I think Becky Lynch probably wins this.
Yeah.
Although I do think they've missed the mark on this feud. And in context, or I should say this, out of context, Becky had a really great promo Monday night where she was talking about, you know, if you think barking like a dog was embarrassing, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of good lines. She got good jabs in there. But in the context of what this feud is about, which is Trish Stratus as this returning legend coming back to WWE, which, based off of her work, is now a much better place for women's wrestlers where they don't have to do bra and panties matches. They don't have to bark like a dog. And all she wants is respect and just to say thank you. I kind of feel like Becky's promo Monday night should have all been centered around, like, I will say thank you. Like, thank you for doing all this. Thank you for revolutionizing women's wrestling where management doesn't try to put me in a position where I have to do a bra and panties match or put me in a position where I have a leash and I'm barking like a dog and I'm this sexual object for men. Like, thank you for all that. And also thank you for waking me up to the fact that I don't have a lot of friends in this business. And so you're going to get what's coming to you Saturday night. I'm going to kick your ass. You know, then you can spin it into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, looking at Trish and being like, I'm going to embarrass you more than you barking like a dog if you thought that was embarrassing. Well, Trish didn't do that, right? Management put her in that position.
Yeah.
So I just think, I think it's, to me, it would have been way more interesting if they would have taken that route with it. Instead, they've just let Becky kind of do her thing. And I mean, like I said, it was great. She's a great promo, Becky is. It's great to see Trish back, but I don't know if this is, if narratively this is living up to what it could have been had they kind of taken a different spin on it.
Yeah, it seemed like it had a lot of momentum out of the gate, and then it just kind of fell off.
Yeah, and I think partly for me it might have fell off because when Becky came back, she did not show Trish any kind of respect. Now, you know, obviously Trish stabbed her in the back and double-crossed her. But again, that's a thing where I think you can play that up and still give this woman her flowers at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But that is it for Night of Champions.
Oh, wow.
A rare 1 p.m. Saturday pay-per-view for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to take that day off, and I'll at least get the first couple, maybe 2.5 hours watch, and then I got to go somewhere for an event that afternoon, so I may not get to watch the rest of it until I get home that night. But it'll be, what, 3 hours, 3.5 hours?
It's usually about 3.5.
Yeah, so I get to see most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know,
you wish you wasn't in Saudi Arabia, but at this point it is what it is, you know?
Yeah. So, like, Sammy's going to be there, which is a little weird, right?
Well, they talked about there was, like, some geopolitical reason why Sammy could now be there because I think Saudi Arabia has come to the table now in some kind of negotiation. I don't know. There was a whole article. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert in global politics, but yeah, there was some kind of reason where Sammy was working it now. So
my dog is just licking the table, just like nothing's going on, like the leg of the table, just chilling. So yeah, couple things. Well, the first thing before we get into AEW stuff, the Double or Nothing coming up this weekend. They announced after the Orange Cassidy and Kyle Fletcher match that AEW had signed Aussie Open. I didn't realize they were free agents, but apparently, like, they were being sought after by WWE as well.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of the guys on New Japan have like restrictive contracts. You know, the guys like Okada, I'm sure those guys probably do. But I think that's what I was reading, that like the sort of the mid-tier guys don't really have contracts with them. They kind of work on a per appearance basis. So, you know, they've been featured in AEW quite a bit at this point. I mean, they've had probably well over a dozen matches, I would say.
Yeah, they haven't had any real singles matches.
No, this was the first time now. But they've been involved in like battle royals too, which is like weird.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, but I mean, I thought that match last night between Cassidy and Fletcher was awesome and a great way to start the show. But
the one thing I wish they would have played up more, they did it a little bit, but I think it was one of the things where this is probably one of the stuff you don't want to be super subtle about and you want to kind of really hit it home, is the fact that Orange Cassidy was so tired he was willing to take a count-out victory. Babyfaces don't do that, right? They do the dive on the guy or whatever. They immediately roll him back in, try to get the win because they want to get that signature stamp of I've won this match.
Yeah, and they brought attention to that twice.
Yeah, and I really think they should have hammered like, oh, we've seen Cassidy. This is, you know, he's willing to take a count-out. Something that's a little bit more to where we're really getting it over the fact that this guy's could potentially be at the end of his rope as the international champion because he's had so many grueling matches. Like it's his willingness to be a fighting champion is going to be his downfall.
Yeah,
and we'll see if they decide to do it in this battle royal coming up Saturday. I don't know if the battle royal is the. I don't know if I would take the title off Orange Cassidy this way in a battle royal, as opposed to taking it off of him in a singles match where someone dominates him because he has too many miles on him at this point.
Yeah, and they haven't really released a list of names that I don't think that are people that are going to be there, although Ricky Starks said he's going to be in it.
Down here it says Ricky Starks, The Butcher, Blade, Bandito, Commander, Lee Moriarty, Big Bill, Daivari, Tony Nese, Chuck Taylor, Chimp Beretta, Kip Sabian, Ray Phoenix, Penta, Swerve, Brian Cage, Jay White, Juice Robinson, Keith Lee, Dustin Rhodes.
Well, damn. Well, there is a list.
But out of those guys, like, who do you... I mean, do you put it on Ricky Starks so that you have a title that is in the feud with Jay White and Juice? Do you put it on Jay White to have a title in that feud? Like, I don't know. This is... Orange Cassidy's been so good, and he's been featured so heavily on AEW TV. I just don't know if I would take the title off of him
this way
in a match that has 20 other dudes in it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. I don't know. Maybe you could do Jay White. Maybe you could do Swerve. Swerve, you know, had so much momentum there for a while, but then they just kind of had him off TV.
The two guys got hurt.
Yeah.
And then they did what they should have done at the very beginning, which is put him with Brian Cage and Prince Nana. That should have been your first call. Yeah. The two other guys were just not ready to be on TV. But you're right, it did kill his momentum a little bit.
So I mean, maybe you could do Swerve, but yeah, I don't know that doing it in the Battle Royal is the right way to do it. But
also, you have to think too, with another 2 hours of programming coming up, you need to position this title as a very big deal for a lot of men to try to go after, especially if you're only going to have one world champion. Again, putting it in a battle royal is not really a way to showcase it.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's why he might actually retain the title, and we might see like the kernel of his next program be in this battle royal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking just a second ago, was maybe something could happen and there could be like a story that pops off from it.
That pops off, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So was that the first, or did we just get there organically? Or
I think we just got there organically. Yeah, we were talking about Dynamite. Yeah. We're free flowing on here.
Whatever, man. This is how we roll.
Another thing I wanted to bring up Dynamite, and I guess this will probably lead us into the MJF 4 Pillars match, which is the first match that's on this preview card here. I thought Sammy's promo Wednesday night was really good. I thought he came across as very earnest, very authentic. He has dropped almost completely the dickish antics and behavior. And I was like, oh, this is... if this is what the potential of Sammy Guevara is as a babyface, I think it has a lot of runway to it.
I mean, dude is talented as fuck in the ring.
Yeah.
I just hated the character for so long.
Yeah. His talent in the ring has never been the question. But like we talked about, he's essentially the only thing he's done is become his AEW All Access character. And if that was the only reason for the show, I guess you would have to say the show was a success, at least in the short term, here. So, yeah, I thought Sammy's promo was really, really, really good Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, last week was kind of that way too. He'd gotten away from, sticking his tongue out and doing whatever. Hey, I'm crazy.
Still don't know what his affiliation with JAS is.
Yeah, because he wasn't out there with him last night.
Which leads me to believe that'll probably be his next program.
Yeah.
Coming out of Double Nothing will be
taking on
Sammy
everyone
Guevara versus Chris Jericho. Yeah. Which I'm fine with, I guess, if you're going to use Jericho that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, I mean, MJF versus Sammy versus Darby versus Jack Perry probably is going to be MJF, right?
Yeah. And there was an article today that said that MJF has been basically the lead on pushing that story in terms of backstage creative. Like, he's been the one kind of in charge of that.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? We've talked about the, at times, schizophrenic nature of AEW Dynamite.
Yeah.
Where from week to week you go, this can't be the same person that is in charge of doing all of this, because the quality of it dips and rises so much. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, everything MJF for the most part has been associated with in AEW has been gold. This, I don't know if you could say has been. I don't want to say that it's been bad. It's been probably like average, a B minus. Maybe it's been fine. It's a stopgap. That's all it really is. MJF Wednesday night also returned to the bidding war of 2024, so that is coming back up.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah. And his promo was fine Wednesday night too. I expect these guys to go out and try to steal the show.
Yeah, you can't call yourselves the Four Pillars if you don't go out there and tear the fucking house down.
And, in MJF's promo Wednesday, too, he mentioned that, like, hey, these were 4 guys who had never been on TV before. We didn't have the machine behind us from WWE. Like, we had to come out and earn the spots that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he showcased Wednesday night why I think he is much better suited to be a babyface. Because he said that and built up his opponents, and then he immediately turned it back and was a heel. I just think that there is such a white meat baby face there for that AEW audience that desperately wants to cheer MJF.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point we'll get that. Even though we're playing up the bidding war of 2024, there is not anything in my mind that would lead me to believe that he didn't sign some kind of long-term contract. Or else Tony Khan is the worst businessman that's ever been in existence.
Yeah.
To just let this dude do this and not know if you're going to re-sign him in December.
Consequences, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm anticipating a good match, but MJF probably comes out the victor.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to take it off and put it on Jack Perry I love Darby Allin, but and it ain't Sammy's time yet either.
No. But you'll see these guys go out and try to do some crazy shit. They'll probably do a bunch of crazy shit. MJF comes out victorious, and then the question coming out of Sunday night will be, who's next?
Yeah, I don't know. Because at one point, they kind of gave Starks his run early this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we had mentioned maybe at some point him and Eddie Kingston, but Eddie Kingston hadn't been on AEW in a hot minute.
Yeah, you remember when Eddie Kingston used to be on AEW Dynamite and we get the biggest reaction every single week, and he's just not there anymore? Now, caveat, hope he's okay.
Yeah, he's actually off. I think he's even off Ring of Honor right now because of an injury, but he did that whole I quit AEW thing and then was on Ring of Honor. I was like, okay, cool. You want some people to buy Ring of Honor every month, but at some point, let's bring the man back to AEW where he belongs.
Yeah, it's Tony seems like a very good. Well, let me say this: Tony seems like a awesome guy to work for. Like even in that Aussie Open thing, I think Sean Ross Sapp reported that
he paid for the surgery.
Tony paid for Mark Davis's meniscus surgery out of his own pocket.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like a dude that cares a lot about the business of wrestling, and more importantly, about who the people are who make this thing up. Right? I just don't know if he is a very good evaluator of putting guys and girls in the best position to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean that is
That's
a lot
why
of
you got to surround yourself with people like. I mean, he's brought in other people. You know, like Shivani's had an increased role in things in the last few months, and brought in Will Robinson and Pat Buck, people like.
Yeah,
but how much input are they really having? Because I don't know.
And at some point, the talent doesn't mean all that much if you're not putting them in the best position to succeed.
Yeah,
it's no different than like in sports, right? If you got a dude who's better suited as a wide receiver and you're trying to make him play tight end, I'm like, well, okay, that's a completely different kind of skill set. I don't know, especially when it comes with a guy like Eddie Kingston, because I think you and I and a lot of wrestling fans see what that guy can be, the potential that's there, and for whatever reason, it just not happened. It's had its moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's had moments where Eddie's in a 6-man tag and you've had like Bryan Danielson and John Mox in the ring and the whole crowd's chanting Eddie. Like, that's a big position to be in, and you would think that people backstage would kind of see this reaction, especially when television ratings are kind of stagnant and there's an opportunity to present somebody who's completely different from what the competition in WWE has. So,
I don't know. Maybe it's just because Eddie's hard to work with. Like,
and it could be that. It could be like we don't know this dude personally. Maybe he is like. At some point too, you have to say, is this dude worth the headache? I
don't know though, because one thing that I liked about the All Access show was, he was talking to Ruby Soho, and he was like, "You don't have to like these motherfuckers, but you got to be professional."
Right.
So I think he could be that guy who's like, I don't fucking like you, but I can work with you, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, do you want that in your locker room?
But I think too, that's probably some of that might be overblown, because like there's a YouTube clip that floated out there where for Brody Lee's the memorial show, Eddie Kingston gave like a locker room speech about how they needed to carry Brody's memory. And like he has the whole locker room captivated. He seems like he could be the guy that you could go to and say, hey, we're going to put the strap on you. You're going to be the locker room leader. You're going to set the standard. Here's the ball. Go run with it and see how far you can take us.
Yeah.
And I think he could take you pretty damn far, because he is so reminiscent of people who have become legends in this business. There's so much of a Dusty Rhodes in him. There's, elements of like a CM Punk from the WWE days. Like, if you just look at what WWE is presenting in Roman Reigns and you say, okay, that's what they're doing, how can we run in the opposite direction? It's a guy like Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, I mean, and people love an underdog.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but a lot of people do,
Yeah, and I mean, we got off on a tangent there, but yeah. I think that is, sometimes you wish you're collecting all these guys, and that's cool, but you have to then put them in positions to where they can become the best versions of themselves, and you can make the best television possible. Yeah,
I mean, I got news for Tony Khan. As much as I would like to purchase the Ring of Honor app and watch some of that every month, like, if I got to add a 2-hour show on Saturday to my already busy schedule, I can't do Ring of Honor, dog. I can't do wrestling every night.
And so maybe you take, I've said this from the beginning since he bought Ring of Honor, the real value in Ring of Honor is the tape library.
Yeah.
So you have that now. Now I think the value of Ring of Honor should be showcasing men and women on there who are up and coming, much like how WWE uses NXT, and not have it be anchored by people like Claudio or I guess even having a guy like Claudio is not. Claudio and Athena could be like your veterans that you kind of anchor the show with, but the show should just be built up with up and coming talent.
Yeah.
the Lucha Brothers don't need the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships.
No.
They just don't. I don't know if that's the correct use of Ring of Honor in 2023, particularly when you have another 2 hours of Collision coming up and all this stuff. Like, Ring of Honor should be people we don't hear of or people we don't hear a lot from, people we don't see a lot from, and then you present these men and women the opportunity of, okay, here's a show. Go out and try to make a name for yourself. I use the sports analogy all the time. Like, put some of these young up-and-comers in these positions, see how they respond. The internet might take hold of one of these guys, and then you can say, oh, really like what you're doing there. Try this next time. You can coach these guys, and that's how you develop. It's like a minor league system.
Yeah.
And then you can, in a couple of years, you can move them up or whatever and see how it works. So, like, yeah, the Lucha Brothers having and Eddie Kingston in Ring of Honor. I get having Eddie Kingston when it first starts to have a big name, but those guys don't need to be on that show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, maybe when he gets done, comes back from his injury, they'll bring him back to TV.
Yeah.
So what's next on the card?
So keeper down here, and this is in no particular order, it looks like. FTR versus Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal for the AEW World Tag Team Championships.
So we can't talk about this one without talking about the slaps from last night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I should mention Mark Briscoe is the special guest referee for this match.
Yeah, I think that plays into
yeah.
Because here, speaking of our kayfabe thing earlier, like, Briscoe comes out, FTR's in the ring. FTR just gave some promos, and FTR's like, Briscoe's like, what's up with that pile driver from last week? Like, don't act like you couldn't have just watched the video. Or somebody ain't told you, like, hey, bro, he got hit in the face with some alcohol.
Had his eyes closed.
Couldn't see. Just dropped a pile driver on whoever ran up on him. Like,
yeah. We didn't even get a chance to talk about that 2 weeks ago. When you just say that out loud, that sounds like a stupid spot. You're going to get alcohol, and you're going to have your eyes closed, and a dude's going to fall, and you're going to pile drive him. Like, that's a very complicated setup. They executed it flawlessly. Yeah. Like, Mark's fall made it absolutely make sense that he would fall directly right there in that position to get the pile driver. So it just shows how much professionals those guys are. But yeah, like you said, you just watch the show, man.
Yeah. So it irked me a little bit when he slaps the shit out of Dax and then walks off, right? Because they're boys. We all know this is all just a story, but he's just walking up the fucking ramp and just smacks the fuck out of Jeff Jarrett, and with the ease with which, props to Jeff Jarrett too, because the way he sold that shit. Yeah, I went from being a little pissed off to just laughing my ass off. Yeah, because he just kept walking, just totally disrespected that man.
He's also a very smart man because he did not say shit to Satnam Singh. So again, I'll give a little elbow to Karen Jarrett. I'll smack the shit out of Jeff. Jay's my boy. But Satnam, 7'4" dude that could just bust my head like a pimple. Yeah. I was gonna walk right by him.
We're cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they're not going to put the belt. I'll say they're not, but they're not going to put the belts on Lethal and Jarrett.
I don't think so. And I will say, after watching, like what we talked about a few weeks ago, where Jarrett and Sanjay and all those guys go up to the Briscoe farm, I'm not so sure that there's not a way that you could spin Lethal and Jarrett and Satnam and Sanjay into like a very comedic 4-man unit.
Yeah.
That you could get the crowd really, really behind in AEW if you did it right. I don't know if they will. I don't even know if you have the time and opportunity to do that. But that screams of like the class, like fucking Satnam Singh and Sanjay in overalls was a hilarious sight to see.
Yeah.
And I don't know, with a little tweaking and a little, little thing here and there, I think you can get those guys over.
Yeah.
Now, whether they want to do that or not is another question. But, if you're in the writer's room, that's one of the ideas you just throw up on the whiteboard randomly. Like, hey, we're just spitballing here. Like, what if we fucking turn them into a comedy tag team? Like, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I think QTV's run its course, so maybe you switch gears and put a little bit of time into that. I mean, if, I
mean, Jay Lethal has a history of that, right? Black machismo. the stuff he did with Ric Flair. Like, he has a history of playing that stuff up. Jeff Jarrett, same way. He was basically a comedic heel during his heyday in the WWF. I mean, Satnam, all you have to do is put him in weird clothing, and it's a hilarious sight. I also think he's gotten more comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then, Sanjay might be a little too much, but you can kind of reel him in. I mean, he's already playing up the little hype man gimmick anyway.
Yeah. I mean, how much do you want to take him away from his other responsibilities, backstage? Like
that too. I mean, it's going to be hard to get him over as a tag team with Karen Jarrett there as well.
Yeah.
She looks fantastic, by the way, but nobody's going to people will not cheer for her. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think it would be a bad move I mean, just from my point of view, to put the belt on them. But I mean, who takes it off FTR, right?
That's going to be a common theme coming out of Double or Nothing, and common. It's the same way with every pay-per-view. But I think now more so than ever, it's kind of tough to see what the way forward looks like for AEW. Like for some AEW pay-per-views coming out of it, we can be like, okay, this is what the next thing is going to be. We don't know for sure who MJF's going to face next. No idea who is going to face FTR for the titles next. Wardlow and Christian, which we'll talk about. Whoever wins that, I think it'll be Wardlow. Where do they go from there?
Yeah, then what?
So Adam Cole and Chris Jericho feels like a finality, unsanctioned match. So I don't know. The path forward just looks a little murky. Doesn't mean it won't be good.
Yeah.
Just means it's going to be tough to figure out.
You gotta sooner or later start building towards Wembley.
And that is the thing that's out there too, right?
Because you don't want that to look thrown together at the last minute, right?
Which will probably, like we've talked about before, this seems like it's, whether this was always the intention for this pay-per-view or not, it seems like it is just a stopgap to get us to Wembley Stadium in August. And maybe a way that it probably wasn't intended to be maybe 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah. So who do you think comes out, Christian or Wardlow?
I think it's Wardlow. Although Christian with the title is more interesting to me, but are you going to continue to just hot potato this thing around?
Yeah, because Wardlow hasn't had it back for, a month maybe at this point?
Something like that. I mean, he continues to be one of the most uninteresting parts of the show every week for me.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
So, I mean, I wouldn't mind Christian, but I don't know. At some point, too, you have to try to manage the real people's personalities as well, right? So, don't know what Wardlow's real name is, but, the guy behind the character of Wardlow, do you want to continue to jerk him around and be like, we're going to give you the title and we're going to take it from you, then we're going to give you,
yeah.
I don't know. There's also that whole aspect of wrestling, too, where the politics backstage as a booker, you have to play those too.
Yeah.
And you don't want guys to get too down, that kind of thing. So, and I don't even know, it's a ladder match. Okay, cool. I mean, Wardlow obviously has a history with it. Christian, we know, has a history with a ladder match. So it adds another element to it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I do. And then up next, Blackjack Battle Royal. We talked about that at the beginning. Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm for the Women's Championship. This is interesting because it seems like Jamie has a real injury.
Yeah, I didn't see what did she injure. I saw that she was nursing an injury.
It's something with her arm or her hand, her shoulder, something like that. But I think it's going to cause her to miss considerable time. And so this is, again, this is the kind of thing where, when you don't have rules established, a champion has to defend it once every 30 days. If you don't, you're stripped.
Yeah.
Now you get in this situation where it's Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm, and if Jamie's actually hurt and you need to take the belt off of her, giving it to Toni Storm, is that, wouldn't you give it to Sarray out of that group?
Yeah, but it's did they have this?
But again, there you go. They didn't have it planned, right?
Yeah.
So maybe she tries.
So the injury happened after they had this booked, right?
Yeah, and then you just have to run with it. Now, we say all that, and Jamie could, this could all be a work. She could win with a roll-up. Maybe she's not as hurt or as injured as what they say.
Yeah.
Could be anything. But yeah, it's one of those situations where you book yourself into a corner and you try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because out of anybody of the Outsiders group, you would give the title to Saraya.
Yeah.
She is the de facto leader.
Yeah.
And how much is Jamie's injury going to prevent them from having a good match? You know, we know both of these women can go in the ring, but if one of them is not 100%, obviously it's going to put a damper on things.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. I mean, it'll be pretty obvious.
Yeah, it just sucks because Jamie was on. Although it did feel like Jamie's momentum has kind of cooled off. I don't really know if they have booked this Outsiders versus AEW Originals thing all that well either.
Yeah.
It seems like, you know, if the potential for this story was an A+, we're hitting at a C+, B- maybe.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because you have a lot of star power here.
It kind of feels like that's the theme with talent that has gotten over, then they get a belt, and then the booking doesn't work out right.
Hangman, Wardlow the first time around.
Wardlow, the Acclaimed, they're still over as fuck, but like it just, you know.
Yeah, it feels different.
Yeah, and the same thing with Hater.
Yeah. And again, that comes back.
How do you fix that?
That's a creative problem. I don't think that, like, we'll go back to Hangman's reign because I think that's probably the biggest example of what you're talking about. When I'm sure we can go back and listen to some of the podcasts we did. I don't think we ever really criticized Hangman all that much. It was just like, oh, he has nothing to do.
Yeah.
He does the random Texas death match with Lance Archer, who just comes back in and attacks him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to... The buildup of it was so great, but then you have, you know, what comes next, and you don't have an answer to that question. And I think that is where the true talent of like a wrestling booker or any kind of creative thing that is a constant story that sort of evolves. That's where the true talent is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we've told this beautiful story with Hangman. Now what do we do? Now how do we keep him relevant? How do we keep this thing going forward? And like you said, this has been now a common example where they have kind of missed the mark, shall we say, for, I don't know, past 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah. So what do we have left? There's Jade and
yeah, next.
Hey, chill out. Baxter didn't like that.
He didn't like that.
Say hey, Baxter.
He's not a fan of Jade Cargill. Yeah, we can talk about Jade Cargill versus Ty Valkyrie. I mean, this is probably Jade as well. This thing has kind of started and stopped, and
this whole thing is boring as shit to me.
Yeah, I don't really know. Why is Jade not involved in the main women's story that's happening? I know I've mentioned this before. Why has Saraya and Tony and Ruby not gone to Jade Cargill and got her on their side?
Yeah.
Like, why is this AEW Originals versus Outsiders thing not all-encompassing for the women's division?
I mean, that's a good question.
Like, instead of having 2 women's matches on here, you would have one massive match that feels like big time, like much like Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite.
Yeah.
It's like a warfare type situation.
Yeah.
For some reason, they have just... Jade Cargill is on her own little island, and she's been that way for forever.
It is weird. It's like they cross so many other things, but they're treating that belt like it's just its own little division.
She's got the Cody treatment. She's got the Cody treatment. Cody Rhodes was the same way. You know, we talked about the Codyverse. That was a common meme that was going around the internet where his segments felt completely isolated from everything else that was happening on the show.
Yeah.
And now that the same thing has happened with her. So, I mean, maybe it's a good match, maybe it's not. I mean, I don't even see... Jade Cargill has improved somewhat in the ring. Is it as much as, you know, people would like? I don't know. Still feels kind of the same.
Presentation and everything is still great, but like...
Yeah.
Just,
again, one of those things where you can see the potential.
Yeah.
This is a little bit different, though, because how much of it is on her and how much of it is on the creative side of it. So, I don't know. Next, we got Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite, Anarchy in the Arena. This should be
wild as
wild,
fuck.
yeah.
Mox promised last night that it's going to be bloody as hell, so there's probably just going to be fucking blood everywhere.
Yeah, there's the Darby Allin is involved in the main event, so I guess this now takes the place of the patented Darby Allin and Sting multi-man match where Sting just jumps off something. Every pay-per-view kind of has something like that, and so I guess this is that match. I don't know who. If you're going to keep the storyline going, it sounds like they will. I think it has to be Blackpool Combat Club comes out on top.
Yeah.
With the aid of a Kota Ibushi, not Kota Ibushi, with the aid of Takeshita. Because it feels like what they're leading to is Kota Ibushi's going to be at Wembley on the side of Kenny Omega and the Elite. Just my guess, based off the rumors.
Yeah.
So you get a Takeshita heel turn Sunday night. He's standing in the ring victorious.
Break my heart.
And I mean, I'm glad that they have inserted him at least in this story with this type of star power.
Yeah. I mean,
so
put him around dudes that can elevate him for sure.
Yeah, and I just think he makes more sense to me in Blackpool Combat Club than he does with the Elite. So, damn, should be fun though. And then Ethan Page and the Guns versus the Hardys and Hook.
Did this have to be a pay-per-view match, or is this a buy-in?
This might be I don't know. It's listed on here on the main card.
This should not be a main card.
If the Hardys win, Matt Hardy will own Ethan Page's contract. We also didn't talk about the firm deletion a couple weeks ago.
I had it in my notes, but
we passed it. We got sidetracked. I think it was the technical difficulties got us all kind of sidetracked.
Oh, that was that week.
The firm deletion stuff I thought was... The cinematic matches can just die now. Just let them go. They had their run. Matt Hardy trailblazed it. His first broken Matt Hardy cinematic match, like that stuff was perfect. It was great. The best one is probably Undertaker and Styles at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that one's great.
So we don't need any more.
There was just something that felt off. There were some really great moments in it. I'm not dismissing it, but something felt off. And it
was continuity. I could not keep up with what was happening.
Yeah, well, there's that, and then just like the I guess, with there not being a crowd there, you don't expect to hear, like, crowd reaction, but, like, it was just, the audio felt weird, and, I don't know. I'm like, it just felt
should, and I
strange.
can't I don't know if I feel like the AJ Styles and Undertaker match had a score to it. Am I mistaken?
I would have to go back and watch, but, like, I don't remember having that feeling.
And I think that might be what was missing. I don't feel like there was any score for the firm deletion match. Needs some type of music.
Yeah,
it can't just be dudes grunting.
Yeah. Just
you know what I mean?
Footsteps, like
it's watch an action movie. Yeah. There's no action scene in any movie that happens without a score.
Yeah,
you need that element for the emotional impact.
Yeah, because you don't have to fucking play it off like, I don't know. Like, I mean, we all know it was pre-taped, so...
Yeah, we understand it's not live.
Yeah, we understand it's not live, so there's nothing wrong with adding some music to it.
No. And another... I guess AEW has done this before, but I believe the parking lot brawl with the Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz was also somewhat cinematic, but it was also, like, taped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during the whole COVID era when everything was taped.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of makes it... you have a live element with crowd noise. Those COVID shows didn't have crowd noises. And then it just felt weird going to the compound.
Well, it was that match would have, I haven't revisited since, but like, you got cars smashing and you're in a fucking big a big concrete place.
Yeah.
The audio's just going to be different. It's going to have a different feel, different reverb, different everything. And you're just in a fucking field. At the compound, right? Until you get inside.
I will say I did love everything Stokely had. I love Stokely getting involved with the kids. I even loved the beginning where they like look up and then they look back down. And it goes like day to night, and they're all like, "What?" It just became like it just became night all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there were parts of it that I liked. It just something didn't feel right.
And we heard, if you'll go back and remember, Jeremy Borash. Matt Hardy has talked about that he played a big role, Borash did, in the broken Matt Hardy cinematic match universe for TNA. Borash then got signed by WWE primarily for that same type of reason, right? He has the expertise in doing this kind of stuff. That's why probably Taker and AJ Styles was as good as what it was.
Yeah.
Again, Taker and AJ produced a great meme.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the Undertaker standing behind him, that kind of thing. There wasn't anything like that in this match.
Yeah.
There was nothing that I came out of way being like, okay, I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything. So,
Yeah.
and then lastly, Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho, unsanctioned match. Sabu will serve as the special guest enforcer. Completely out of left field.
Yeah. Because when he was like, yeah, we're outnumbered 5-2, but I've got a guy. And I had no idea what to expect.
I didn't either. And also, hey, Adam, you're still outnumbered.
You're still outnumbered. I don't care how fucking crazy you think dude is.
Yeah. I don't know, unless he's going to bring a gun and shoot at the rest of them. I don't know. Which it's Sabu. Fuck, it might not. What if Sabu just pulls out a gun Sunday?
Forgets, like, he just goes back to fucking ECW rules and shit.
Yeah, I mean, Sabu's great. He's a legend in the business. Yeah, completely came out of left field. I think this match will be good. It's also good that I think it's unsanctioned because the one thing that Adam Cole's character has missed, at least in AEW, if not for the majority of his career, is like a mean streak. Now, you could say that's because he's one of the smaller competitors on the roster, but I still think you can get the guy over as like, okay, he is, he's got the long hair and the good looks, but also he can get in the mud with you and go toe-to-toe with the best of them and, in any kind of match, whatever kind of way. He's probably going to win, and Adam Cole's probably next in line for MJF.
I hadn't thought about that.
He would be my likely guy that MJF goes up against next.
But you don't do that at Wembley, right?
I mean, you could. You need some kind of big match.
Yeah.
It's been the theory keeps floating out there, and I don't know if the person who keeps floating it out actually has some info. I keep hearing MJF versus Sting at Wembley.
For Sting's last match?
Yeah, as like a or I don't even know if it's his last. They've pitched it as a retirement match, but just MJF versus Sting. Some kind of special attraction. Because I think Wembley's going to have enough of the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
It could possibly have the Drew McIntyres of the world. It could possibly have the Kota Ibushis. There's going to be a CM Punk match in there. There's probably going to be a Mercedes Moné. Like, at some point, you're going to have all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you look at All In Wembley and say, okay, we like MJF versus Adam Cole. We want that to be the next feud for MJF. We don't want to do it at Wembley because we don't want it to get overshadowed.
Yeah.
So maybe you do a MJF and Sting. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. Because Will Ospreay's probably going to be on the fucking Wembley show. Like, it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And so maybe you don't want your title, one of your potential big-time main event title programs to happen at that place, too.
So, that one's overseas, then it'll start, middle of the afternoon here? Early afternoon?
Yeah, and it looks like they're still going to run All Out the week after. Somebody had pitched this too. All In, we've just now had the launch of HBO Max has become Max. That happened May 23rd, changed the thing. Why not just put All In, the Wembley show, on the streaming service? We know that AEW All Access episodes are about to go on there. If they're not already.
Yeah.
That was some kind of report that came out there. You really going to make people pay $100 or $120? I don't even remember how the pay-per-views, $50, $60, however much they are.
It's $50, so then turn around the next week and pay $50.
And do it again,
God
yeah.
Damn, I hadn't thought about that. Save up, bitches.
And there's a way to, if you were going to put one of those shows on the streaming service, you want to do Wembley because that's going to be the biggest looking event.
I did see a thing today that was like, they don't know where it's going to air. So maybe it's a thing they're considering. I mean, like I would guess maybe because it's not within the Bleacher Report contract. I guess they're contracted for a certain amount per year.
Could be that. It could be what we just said. Tony doesn't want his fans paying $120 to see two shows. I mean, that's wild if they haven't decided. Because there's no way in hell it's free. There's no way in hell it's completely free.
Right.
Like, it's not going up on YouTube for example.
Right.
You know? And I don't necessarily know if you want it to air over broadcasts, because is TNT or TBS going to give you, and then maybe they give you 3 hours on a Saturday. I don't know.
But you're going to have a lot of
You're going to have
matches.
commercial breaks. You have to play in that space. I just think having it on Max as like the first big, here's AEW's presence on this brand new platform, is the way to go.
Yeah, you might be onto something.
But if Warner Brothers, and it could be something, as Warner Brothers could come back and say, I'm not a tech savvy guy, so I don't know. Maybe Warner's is like, we don't have the capability of doing live stuff on our streaming platform, because HBO Max, or now Max, has no kind of live component to it.
That's true.
I don't know.
We'll find out.
I guess, and we probably will. Hopefully, we'll find out soon.
Yeah, 'cause, it's only a couple months away at this point.
Yeah, it's August.
I think that's about it then, right? For
That's
all that
it.
stuff.
Yep.
Did you see? We'll switch gears real quick to some other stuff. GCW. Did you see that Blake Christian and Adam Priest got signed for the Huntsville show?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And Blake was on AEW last night. We since we didn't do a Dynamite rundown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was in there with AR Fox and them versus House of Black.
I will say, I like that match. I like the House of Black presentation. First of all, they look, my God, fucking look amazing. I do like the idea, and I didn't know if I would at first, the dealer's choice, where the challengers get to pick. I like that wrinkle. And I like the fact that Wednesday night they had it where the challengers said no tags, just one man win, one man out. And I think you can play that up if you do the story right of, because it is a dealer's choice and the opponents get to pick, the announcers do need to play up the fact that there's some strategy that's been employed here for this. So one of the things I thought the match was missing Wednesday night was just that element of it, where House of Black is kind of caught off guard in the beginning because, oh shit, we're not prepared. And then they have to like diagnose it on the fly, right, and come up with an answer to that. And then they can still have a dominant fashion. But there should have been something at the beginning of the match where like either it's Buddy or it's Brody or it's somebody's in the ring, and fucking Blake Christian's flying in and flying out, and Metal League's flying in and flying out, and fucking AR Fox coming in, coming out, and
yeah, because they were all over the fucking place.
Yeah, and and House of Black has to like take a second and diagnose the situation, Yeah, because then you can play it up on your commentary team like, look, we know House of Black is dominant, but this is a thing that they're really pushing to. House of Black really wants that competition. And could this be their Achilles heel, that they've allowed these people to come up with a rule that they don't know about that lets these three men develop some kind of strategy?
Yeah.
They kind of touched on it last night, but again, I think it's one of those things, much like the Orange Cassidy thing at the beginning of the show. There's some things you need to be subtle with. There's some things you need to just pound the audience over the head with.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things.
Well, before we wrap it all up, there is a lot of opportunity to see live wrestling in North Alabama in June. AEW house show will be here. Mm-hmm. I think I'm gonna skip that one and do GCW.
Yeah.
On that Saturday the 24th, it looks like. And then I may drive over the next night to see GCW versus New South.
Yeah.
I figure some of the New South folks will be in the GCW event.
Well, Adam Priest has already got.
Yeah.
He's a New South regular.
Yeah.
And he's already been signed for that Huntsville show.
I want to do a campaign to get Cabana Man Dan on there.
I'm sure he will be.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Get him on the card.
Yeah.
I had it pulled up just a minute ago and it went.
Friend of the pod now, Cabana Man. We can say that.
So yeah, Blake Christian versus Adam Priest. It says plus Nick Gage. I don't know the name. Sorry, Rina Yamashita.
Oh, the Japanese woman,
Yeah.
Japanese wrestler. They're bringing over for that show.
Sweet. Joey Janela, Sawyer Wreck, Mike Jackson, Effie, and more. So we didn't get Effie last year. We'll get Effie this year. And Nick Gage didn't wrestle last year, so I wonder if he'll
wrestle, if he'll just come out and do his. He is not the champion anymore. Slamovich is now the GCW champion.
Yeah.
we'll see if she's on that card.
Yeah.
When they come to Huntsville.
And
but yeah, I'm sure there'll be other matches that get announced.
Yeah, and then New South has. It looks like they're doing something pretty much monthly over at Singing River now.
Yeah.
One of these days I'm going to drive over there for that. But I'm just looking forward to the ones when they come here. They're going to do a game. Dan told us at Toyota Field. They're going to set up a ring in the concourse before the game and have a fucking match or a show, and then in the baseball game, which would be fun as shit.
Yeah.
And then I think they're going to be at Shag Nasty's at some point this summer. And then they usually get over to Furniture Factory as well. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited about because that's right here in our backyard.
Yeah. I would, my kids right now are 3 and 1, so they're not at the age to be able to take. But I look forward to the time, and, by all accounts, hopefully New South is still around in 5-6 years where I could take my son, because that is a cool... Particularly when you get good indie shows like that, like what the New South guys and girls are running, because like Austin Theory was a New South champion, like I don't know 6 years ago, and so it's kind of like you can go watch these dudes who go on to, who could potentially go on to fucking wrestle John Cena at WrestleMania, and you can see them for $15,
yeah,
and be up close and personal like that.
And man, look, it is fun as shit.
It's
like,
great, yeah.
When I was thinking about how I wanted to spend my money for the month, I was like, would I rather go pay $60-$70 and sit somewhere way ass away from the ring, or would I rather go spend $25 and stand essentially 4 rows back at GCW? Like, because there were 3 rows of seats, and we were standing right behind Conrad Thompson last time.
Yeah.
And had the fucking time of my life.
And for something like New South, you can get even closer.
You can get even closer.
Now you might, I probably won't be taking my son in 5 years to a GCW show.
But
I mean, a little bit older.
Yeah, New South is like family friendly there.
But New South is family friendly, yeah, and that's these indie promotions like this, they really need that family friendly aspect to thrive as businesses. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they have to make money to keep going.
Yeah.
And like Cabana Man Dan was talking about a couple weeks ago, like this area of the country has never been thought of as being a hotbed for indie wrestling. It was always Philly and Chicago and Baltimore and just the Northeast in general, or you had to go out to LA for PWG. So it's cool that with like New South, and then another big indie like Wrestling Revolver out in Iowa. Like fucking Iowa has never been, but you go watch those shows on Fight TV.
Yeah.
And fucking Ace Austin is there, and John Moxley's on the card, and like all kinds of shit like that. So this really is a cool time to be a wrestling fan. The biggest problem is just finding the time to watch everything.
Yeah.
And like Cabana was talking about, it makes it hard for guys to stand out, or it pushes them to do crazier and crazier things. Is that necessarily good for the business? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a philosophical debate. We haven't seen anybody get too terribly injured.
Yeah.
Trying to kind of push the envelope, but the human body can only handle so much.
Yeah.
And they can only do so much.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, get out and go see a show, man. Support your local wrestlers and local promotions, and buy T-shirts. New South's got new T-shirts they posted about the other day. So I'm going to get one of those sooner rather than later. They even make them for fatties. I texted Headman Dump over there at New South, and he said, "Yeah, they got them for big uns." So I'm excited. So yeah, man, I guess that's it for us. Unless you got anything else you want to wrap up on?
No, we got 7 hours of wrestling this weekend. 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, hunker down.
37.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pour you a cold one and enjoy some wrestling.
We'll see you guys.
All right.